Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever live and in person from downtown Montreal.
We're not live. This is definitely not live, but
But
it is in person.
yes, we're here in Montreal after seeing four absolute masterpieces, four perfect cinema scored movies, none of which were the Minecraft movie. Um, and yeah, we're here to talk shop, and I guess we're going to get into it. I guess this is so weird in person.
Is it?
Yeah, because
Because
I
we're looking
feel
at this instead of like us. I still am looking at you though, so it's
y-
a
if
different
you guys ever
dynamic.
watch Love Is Blind at home, there's always a moment in
This is the
this.
15th time I've heard about this, and we've been together for 48
He's
hours.
confused because I brought up Love on the Spectrum and
It's
Love Is
all the
Blind.
same. They're all reality TV.
But in Love Is Blind, they meet without being able to see each other, kind of like how we're on a webcam all the time. So now that we're in person, we're like the people that are like, I just miss how we were in the pods when we were separate. So we should put a divider here. Anyways, first ever in person podcast off to a great start. No Adriana today.
She's traveling the world for the month of April.
Yeah.
But she was able to join us for three of the four movies we're going to attempt to talk about. Kicking things off with The Boys,
Yes.
Friday night. So, a little bit of backstory before we get into the whole lore of it all. But I took Brandon to a friend of mine's wedding technically 2 Novembers ago.
Yeah, 2 years
A
ago in
year
November.
and change now.
Shout out Nikki and Kelsey.
Nikki and Kelsey.
Happy almost 2 year
You can
anniversary.
see that video on Primer Productions on YouTube for a little. It was like a minute long, right? At least on the public one. Anyway, it's on there. Check it out. Beautiful wedding, great time in Mexico. But Kelsey and Steven, we did a big boys outing to see The Beekeeper in 2024. That was a January release.
In the year of our Lord 2024,
We had a good time with it, and we it was like a private screening. It was just us, so we didn't like book it that way. It just happened. No one went to see the.
It was a really good deal for $11 a ticket for four people. You could have a 100-person theater to yourself. I'm sure we'll get into it, but I personally love The Beekeeper. As much as I'm a hater on like so bad it's good kind of stuff, The Beekeeper was like so on the nose. There's a moment where Jason Statham's a beekeeper and an assassin, as he is in like all of his movies. He's like a trade plus, etc. And the working man we're about to get into. But in The Beekeeper, it'd be like, we have to kill the president, who's a woman, and then he would say something like, we have to kill the queen of the hive for the good of the colony. And you're like, cool, they get what they're doing here. So the working man, we're like, oh, how many blue collar jokes and whatever. We were really excited, but to spoil the whole review.
It's an interesting. We had incredibly low, but what we assumed were accurate hopes, and then therefore a good time could be had. And initial impressions where it somehow was worse than we expected in pretty much every regard.
Yeah.
Like what's like at all. It was we went in like we didn't want this to be like, oh, high art type action movie stuff. We wanted this to be like poppy and fun, just like lean into the bit. And they did like one bit.
Yeah.
The whole movie. It was the most serious, crappy action movie.
It was serious.
In a while.
And I think like my issue with it is like even The Beekeeper. It's funny because like we left this and I immediately broke into where The Beekeeper thrived, and I was hitting like beat for beat, and Shay was like, dude, I didn't know it affected you that much. Like you cared so much about like all the plot lines and all the character development, because there was a little bit of it. But here in this movie, it is such a made for streaming movie, and it bothers me that it was put in a theater, and I thought it would be like worthy of even talking about it.
Well,
so
honestly, I made for streaming. Everyone probably at this point knows how much I don't like that.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, even worse than that. Like it's something that I don't have. There's no reason for it to exist. Like it did absolutely nothing good. It was like whatever, like classic Jason Statham. That's fine, but it was the biggest thing for me is it was so serious. It was played too straight, and then didn't do enough absurd, weird bits. Where again, I swear to God, we're gonna have to watch this back. But like the trailer It's like he's like, I'm just a working man. Like I feel like I remember in the trailer for that
Yeah.
bit, he says it, and I don't think he says it in the whole movie.
In the whole movie. And it's funny because we kept looking for that Family Guy joke, right? Where it's like, oh, there it is. He said the title, you know. And when he finally they hit us with it, it was so out of left field. You know, we'll just skip over all like nobody cares. There's a moment where Jason Statham's kind of got like a bit of a rival bad guy that respects him because he's a badass. They're all Marines. There's a lot of Marine hoorah shit in this movie that's so unearned, and we'll get into that. But this one guy, they go to shake hands because the granddaddy always said, "Shake a man's hand, stand up." After he beats up a bunch of people in a very lackluster wannabe John Wick scene where they just light it with neon lighting, and then they just doing 9,000 cuts and shit. Like there's no choreography. And he goes to shake his hand. As they're about to shake, he goes, "Those hands, those are the hands of a working man." And they just hard cut to the next scene. And I looked over at Shay just like this. Yeah, I was emotionlessly just like this, just looking at Shay, being like, is this? But meanwhile, earlier, every scene that they're like, I gotta go straight and get my kid back, and he's doing like also the blue collar parts of this are great because so I guess we should get into the movie a bit, but so
yeah, spoiler alert, don't watch it.
Yeah, don't even.
It's not worth at all anything ever. It's not worth your time.
No,
slightly.
David Ayer should go back to the director's jail. I thought Beekeeper was like a return to form. Michael Pena's in this, you know, one of those actors who worked with him on like End of Watch, and he's always good. He's super funny in the Ant-Man movies, I thought. Low bar. Like, I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad actor, but it's like they did great MCU movies. In this movie, he's just a guy. He's just a dad.
He's also only in 2 locations, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
And the little like construction site,
the portable construction office where they're like, yeah, in his house at the end. Yeah, so, and then David Harbour was even bigger wasted, I would say. But so we'll get into it. So the whole point of this movie is the first 5-10 minutes. You know, Shay and I talk about signing a contract where you get presented what the movie and the world is. And I think as soon as I realized what we were in for, and I was getting hyped, like I thought it was going to be Beekeeper level of like awareness. The whole opening credits is like a cement mixer on a job site, but it's like a grenade, and you're like, oh, and there's like a guy firing a AK.
That's the most we laugh.
Yeah, there's a guy firing an AK, and instead of like bullet shells coming out, it was bolts, like lag bolts, and it's like, oh, because being you know a working man, a construction worker is war, dude. Am I okay? So,
but the title credits were more aware of
yeah,
than the rest of the movie.
Completely.
Like, there was moments like I thought honestly we were getting to a point where we were building to the like Avengers Assemble moment where they were like, he's finally gonna say, "I'm just a working man.
I'm just a working," or he'd be like,
and he never did. And there was like so many parts where I'm like, ah. And then they move on. I'm like, blah, blah. And then like, I'll never even the bit. Like, I literally turned to you pre-excited on the movie's behalf when he's fighting these people, and a toolbox of tools falls over and like a bunch of it splays out on the ground. And because he's a working man, he's got tools now. And he grabs one, does it, and then just moves on.
Yeah,
like not like a bit. Like, don't lean into it at all. It was just, I'm like, oh.
Like legitimately, the expectation would be minimum in my head as a screenwriter, I guess. I assume he would take like a screwdriver, stab it in the guy's hand or eye, and go, get screwed. And that's awful, but it delivered less than that, you know?
That's what, like, yeah, like bits like that.
Nothing, yeah. It was so flat. It was just like, also, so, and it's another thing too that I mentioned. It's like you don't care about consequences because basically, even the Beekeeper, he's pretty brutalized by the end of it. He's, you know, basically had like a hell day. He's fought like 1,000 goons, and he's like just getting to the finish line of the movie. And this movie, I think it's like, other than like, I don't even know if he got punched in the ribs one time. Like, he was literally just untouchable the whole movie. So by the end of it, you know, he's got like sweat on his brow. And his daughter's like, Daddy, did you look like you had a hard day? He's like, I did, princess. What's for you? And then David Harbour's just sitting there blind, being like, amen, brother, veteran shit. And like the movie just kind of ends, and you're like, so I got to be real, but the first 5-10 minutes talking about like signing the contract of the movie, we you know, Jason Statham's on the construction site. He's like, you know, the boss's right hand man. He's like a foreman. You see all these like Latino workers in Chicago. They're all like, they look up to him, they respect him. And then you see a Latino gang shows up in a truck, and they start beating this guy on the construction site. And then that's when you know, okay, Jason Statham, the righteous protagonist, comes out, throws an arbitrary bucket of nails, and starts doing some one-on-one disarming combat. You're like, oh, good, this
That also absolutely did nothing.
did nothing. You're like, oh, this is kind of interesting, but it's like you're getting into it. And then he whips out the OSHA approved workplace shotgun that was just sitting on a pallet nearby. And also, they preface right before this, oh, bloody hell, they got the inspectors coming through and the bylaw officers. Oh, what a bad day. And it's like, but that doesn't matter. I thought there would be a little bit more into turmoil, or I thought they would even use like a high rise that they were building as a set piece, like they would in better movies. They never do. So the point of this is, the Latino gang disappears and they replace them with a Russian gang, completely unrelated to that. That was just like an open. It's like, so there's just so much gang crime happening that he can just say, because they imply with a lot of the shots, we'll get you next time. We'll be back for you, Jason Statham.
Literally never come
And
back.
no,
The whole thing.
It was confusing when you see the plot happening and people are kidnapping the boss's daughter, and then the boss is like, please, the working man, I need you to save my daughter. And he's like, I don't do it anymore. I'm a working. He doesn't say I'm a working man. You just want him to say it.
You want him to say it.
But he's like, yeah, please, Chev Chelios from Crank, a far better movie, go save my daughter. And then he's like, I can't. I'm just trying to go straight and get my daughter back. And then he leaves to go to David Harbour. And David Harbour's like, they sit down like us right now and be like, yeah, I know what you're going to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. It. They go, yeah, they cheers. Next scene, he's just on full, rescue the daughter mode. It's like that scene was so arbitrary. Why have any of that?
It felt
so bad,
agonizingly long. And this is going to be a theme for me. I'm never one of those people that rails a movie that's 3 hours. I'm like, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
A movie can be 7 hours and still fly by. Like it's you got to pace well, and it's just harder to do that at a longer runtime. Like all of these were like right around 2 hours or sub 2 hours, like, or low. I think all of them were maybe even lower than that. This one was long. And like
long.
When we went into what I thought was like the final fight.
Yeah.
And that's when you're like, bro, I think there's still 40 minutes. And you were right. Like,
yeah.
It was so,
yeah.
There was like just another thing. And it was like, and I'm like, okay, I am again, I've been giving Brandon shit, the theme of the podcast, a bit about expectations, but I'm like, okay, like maybe we screwed up thinking this was like The Beekeeper. It was going to be this self-aware. And I mean, they did it in their own, like, I only saw the poster. I don't remember. I looked at the trailer once after, but they lean into the bit there, like kind of playing it up. And it's like, okay. And then, it just never comes back to anything. But then it's like, okay, if you're going to be this serious action movie, it fucking sucks
so bad
at all of it. The action was terrible. Like you said, Taken, like absolutely not not Taken 1. We're talking Taken 3.
Like 3. Or like Liam Neeson House of Fence, and there's like 10 cuts.
Super cut.
And we have Jason Statham, who's an actual performer and will do that, and he's not Liam Neeson 70 years old. And they cut around everything, like, so you can't even like sink into any of the scenes.
Like it was all bad. And again, it's so kind of dumb too, though. Like still that it doesn't earn the seriousness. Like you don't buy into it. You don't feel the emotion. Even like the bad guys that were definitely super bad dudes. Like when I feel so little. When he finally gets to them all, and I'm like, oh. Okay.
To the bad guys, the real villain of this movie is the wardrobe department.
I disagree with you on this. I think it was the only interesting part of the whole thing.
Yeah, I'll say this. So the most
out in a movie where everything sucked.
Yeah, and to be fair, I fully agree. But the movie was fighting itself so many times, and like Shay and I were just watching some of our high school videos. Like we made a bunch of nerds, but there's so many times where I'm like, we had no good gear or anything. We're just like sitting in a shed with a fake Russian accent, being like, "You stole my cocaine," and that's this fucking movie, where it's just like these fake Russian wannabe, and the whole point is it's a Russian mob, and then he's trying to like get in with them and case them, and they're like, you're going to go to this Irish bar on the edge of town, and it's a country bar run by this like buff ex-military black dude. So you think it's kind of skinheads or it's Russians, but it's a country bar that they say is an Irish bar. It's this like buff black dude and a Mad Max gang in the back room selling crystal meth. And then
for the Mad Max bit, like I literally laughed because
here we go.
We're into a bit, and it's this. big dude who was he was the only thing I remember seeing him in before was The Gentleman.
Yes,
The
yeah, yeah.
movie. I don't know about the show, but anyway, just this huge beefy black guy, and he's sitting on like a throne of like tailpipes and stuff from
Like
like
Harley
motorcycles.
spokes and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah. And I'm
Like
like,
Game of Thrones with
where?
motorcycles.
And then it's like,
Yeah.
no, they just kind of did that, and then it's like, yeah, okay, they are a biker gang, but like,
And the big fight at the end of the movie, and you know, we always talk about like setting up like we talk about as an opus where there's a character who's like a secondary antagonist you think's going to be like the leading up boss fight, like to get to the climax, you know. And so they set up a few people based on wardrobe. Like they have these two twins that wear these like crazy jumpsuits basically, and
they're
again,
like Matrix wannabes.
yeah,
They
yeah.
got cut out of the first round of the
Yeah,
Matrix.
it's like they get like punched in the gut in the back of a van, then shot, and you're like, oh, there's no, again, no catchphrase, no like got you back, no, it just kind of like disposed like henchmen. But you get to the final fight, and they introduce a ton of like these extra baddies with like the biker gang. That's again like a mix of everything. And I leaned over. Some of them are wearing Viking helmets, again with the black biker gang through the Russian mob selling meth out of a country bar that's called an Irish bar. And then next to the Viking helmet chick getting off the bike with their like chains and shit, there was like a samurai. And I'm like, what are they going for? This is Mad Max in contemporary times with no context. And then they have like an H&M model show up in a trench coat and a bandolier, and he looks like he looks 90 pounds, and the LMG he's shooting is like
Yeah,
100 pounds.
there's no way that's gonna go that well.
There's a character they introduced to give like the female like daughter who gets kidnapped some agency. You know, there's like a thing where they're trying to like, you know, Weinstein her in a back room and she like bites his face off. You never really see it that well. It's like all poorly lit, it's very poorly choreographed. And then later they're about to kill her and they bring her back just so they can have one more face-to-face scene, again, just bloating this movie's runtime. And she goes, what did I ever do to you? As he's got a face bandage and bleeding. And he goes, nothing. I just want to punish you or something. I'm like, no, dude, 2 scenes ago, she ripped your face off. Like, it's just like, it doesn't
Just a
work.
mess.
Yeah, it doesn't work in its own logic. Oh, costume. So then, do you want to talk about the father-in-law? That's the,
Oh, like the okay, yeah.
yeah, because I got a hot take on that,
The
but
whole bit is that Jason Statham's wife died while he was say where
you just assume Afghanistan.
he was somewhere on
Him and
deployment.
David Harbour go, do you remember that time with my back on deployment? And they go, haha, yep.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they just
I did.
and then they're like, you're a good brother.
Yeah,
And like that's it. Nothing.
super surface. But anyway, so the opening scene, he goes to pick up his daughter, and this part's not like clear, but anyways, pick up the daughter, and it's the grandfather, and he's wearing like honestly what I thought was like at the time, like as soon as I saw him, like this is some weird Russian mob guy, like just like the weird fluff. This is the way like
It was
kinda
a
caricature
plush
before.
bucket hat. So it was like a suede, not suede, it was like a fuzzy, like a
Yeah.
pillow topper bucket hat. And he was wearing athleisure that was like all patterned and glasses. And again, considering we had just seen scenes where two dudes had matching tracksuits that are like gold and all that, I was like, oh, the mob's at his daughter's birthday. And then you find out immediately it's not even her birthday. The grandfather is just throwing a party to make the father feel insecure about being a dad, and he's just trying to flaunt his money. And then there's a scene immediately after where his lawyers are like, he's just trying to rage bait you, and it's like, yeah, obviously it's not. It's so weightless, but
Well, the whole subplot too of the grandpa also just completely useless.
so
Now
useless.
he's gonna sue him for custody, and he's gonna just outspend. Why is this in here? It's like to make us artificially care about Jason Statham, but I'm like, we don't need to care.
No,
Like to enjoy this.
no,
Like
not at all.
you don't need to do this investment, and like yeah, they don't. They want to be serious, but they don't go very far, frankly, in any of that
No,
kind of stuff either. But they don't like yeah go the other way. Like it was
I
just a fucking miserable,
I think like
miserable
to
movie.
cap off like you know, the I call this like it's kind of like boomer porn. Now it's more like latent Gen X porn. When we talk about like say the Taken franchise, it's that male fantasy where it's like this kind of retired dad who doesn't feel like he's super useful anymore, and he spends all his time window shopping, thinking about his older daughter, and then she gets kidnapped, and finally he gets to be the hero again after kind of being forgotten. He's a forgotten old man. And so the Taken franchise was kind of appealing to the boomer audience that was aging out of being a cool dad or a fun, they're just kind of vacantly around. This movie is like the Gen X to late millennial tradie construction worker fantasy. Um, but I think the movie was smart enough to realize if you make the average blue collar guy the protagonist, where he's just talking about his bitch ex-wife on his third divorce, drinking cigarettes and coffee in his car. It would suck. So they eliminate the wife and make the wife's dad, who never approved of him, the antagonist fighting for the custody. And he's all very like flamboyant. He's a doctor of psychology. He's very liberal. He wears yoga pants. Jason Statham rescues him from a fire to prove he's a really good guy no matter what. And the grandpa's wearing like pink rainbow like yoga like women's yoga pants, and you're like, what an odd costuming choice for the second time, two of two scenes he's in this movie. So I think this is this male fantasy of like, yeah, I am Jason Statham, he's literally me. I also sleep in my car, play scratchers, eat at a shitty diner for my only sustenance, and all I care about is my daughter, and I have no social skills, and I'm the number one guy at my job site, but nobody believes me. Like, it's like, it is a really subsect male fantasy of like, yeah, I'm a badass and I do this job and I have no light, my life's falling apart because I'm just kind of this gruff guy, and I work with people like this, and I'm like, oh, I know two dudes who, like, I don't know, were like military reserves, and they're like always like, ooh, brother, and now they move furniture and they pour concrete, and they're like, yeah, I'm basically Jason Statham. So
Do you know what this has on the tomato meter?
is it below 39%?
It's above it, 45%.
That's
But
crazy.
but that's only with 33 critic reviews. Oh,
Okay.
that's top critics. Sorry, it's at 51% if you take in all
That's
critics.
wild. So this is what I'm talking about. I think the people seeing this is so made for them.
Well, but it's the what do they call it now? The verified, or the popcorn meter.
Yeah, so the general audience,
It
basically.
is verified hot at
Wow.
88%.
Wow.
With a average score. Guess the average score.
It's like 80, I bet.
It's out of 5. It's not like the average score out of 5.
For
For
like
the
like a 3.5 maybe?
4.4.
Wow. The letterbox would be different. Letterbox would be like a 2.2 or something, probably.
Pull that up too. But like a 4.4, like in no universe, I feel like if you watch no movies, this still has to be terrible.
Well, that's what I'm saying is, like, I think in a world where we have a John Wick franchise and we're so used to good action now,
like the ballerina trailer we saw before this movie was substantially better than this movie, and I'm not convinced that
we saw the ballerina trailer before Working Man, then we saw it again today, and seeing it again today is like the trailer shots. I was getting mad because I'm like, are you spoiling the best action? I'm like, no, her throwing an axe and hitting a guy in the head is like the best choreographed thing that could have been in the Working Man, but there was like so little choreography being shown. And again, I don't know if it's David Ayer trying to do like an end of watch like crazy camera thing, but some of the lighting and camera work in this movie was so subpar. Like, there's a torture scene that looks like they shot in a broom closet with one light, and they like color graded it to look like 2002, like where it's like bleach filtered, and just like nothing ever is really good. And like, I don't know, on a technical level, there was nothing to say. And then so again, watching any movie today, I was like, oh, there's some artistry here. There's something here. There's a theme, even if it's not well. But yeah, The Working Man, it's like I wasn't going in expecting high art or some A24 thing, but I was expecting like some punchlines, some fun. Just even if they got like a crazy kill, like a cement mixer kill, like I was expecting, But there was like very little other than just like, oh yeah,
like his job, the Working Man gimmick, completely
out the door. Yeah,
the whole movie.
Out the door immediately.
Literally, like the setup at the beginning, like, and it's even kind of a bullshit setup because it's like he's not just the work. He literally has a backstory with all of it. And it's just that it was his job. Now he's back out of it. So
I like to compare this. If you think that you might be into this movie, I'll tell you things that you do like and are better that aren't even that good. 2.0. Okay, so one of the things I'd compare this to is like Punisher season 2, a Netflix streaming show with a much lower budget. They have similar, if not better, choreography.
Its own show.
Yeah, with James Brown, John Bernthal. Yeah. So season 1 and 2.
He was in Daredevil. I didn't remember.
I think it's season 1 or 2. There's like a scene where he's at a construction site and he fucks some dudes up with a sledgehammer, and that is infinitely more The Working Man than The Working Man.
Just pull that up on YouTube and it's a better review.
Yeah, like it's fucking Jason Statham buying pounds of meth, talking to gangbangers that are all like Euro.
Such a convoluted.
So convoluted.
That's overselling it, the complexity, but it's just so many unnecessary steps to progress us through this story.
Yeah,
that was so terrible. Yeah, I genuinely, like I said, we went in expecting a not good but fun experience. Like that was it, and it wasn't good. It wasn't fun. Like again, there's to
Yeah.
me there was like nothing redeemable about that whatsoever.
Literally nothing. And it's like I am, when it comes to dumb action, like, I'd be the first to try to be like, oh, well, when people say like, oh, it's just not made for you. It's too high art, or it's a kid's movie. It's not made for you. Don't judge Minecraft, Shay. With this movie, I'm like, oh, it's not made for you. I don't know, letterbox crowd. I'm like, but like, who is this made for? And again, I guess it's like these guys I would work with who are like the divorced dads that think they're like literally Jason Statham. But again, like I would hope, but the craft in this movie is not good. Like again, the wardrobe department was the only one trying to add some like self-aware levity to this. But it was distracting because the wardrobe was like, look how unserious some of this stuff is and how like fun they're having. And then yeah, like every scene was like drag, drag, drag. But yeah, I think this is probably like the worst movie I've seen all year, and I've seen a lot of movies, and I'm not that critical, I don't think. But this movie did suck, like
Yeah,
the
you
most.
were too generous on Amelia Perez, but this is
Hot take. I did think about this. I was like, the filmmaking for Amelia Perez, even if the movie sucked, was a lot stronger in a lot of ways. Like they could light a scene better, they could hold the camera straighter, they could tell a story with characters. Even if it wasn't good, it was still a story. Where this was just like I think I said AI generated clickbait. Like I was like, this is
this is written by
so
Sylvester Stallone, and on that note, I think that's all you need to know.
fair enough.
There's my catchphrase for Kai.
So speaking of nothing burgers,
Jumping into the next one. Death of a Unicorn.
yeah, the
Um,
Paul Rudd slapstick comedy starring Jenna Ortega.
Jenna Ortega. We'll do the high level thoughts on this one.
Who's the actor that was the like only part of it? Like, what's that guy? I gotta shout him out because I was joking about the lead sucking, but like, who's the
one we like.
what's so good? The only good actor in that whole
Poulter.
Will Poulter.
Yeah.
It's the Will Poulter show, and the rest of it we'll talk about.
Yeah. Another one. Don't think you need to watch it. I guess slightly more entertaining, I would say, than Working Man.
Much more competently made.
Yeah. There was some cool like just visual tweaks.
Yeah.
again, there was disagreement in our group on the quality of the effects.
Yeah.
But I liked more of the practical shots when they
Yeah.
had them, but they were very rare.
Yeah, but there's also like not to be the letterbox guy, but like there's also like some commentary of it, and not saying every movie needs it, but more than just the working man. Like there, it's a bit of an eat the rich, the menu type satire, which is almost getting kind of old now. Again, like Opus really made me realize like how saturated the
A lot of these,
kill the elites kind of Luigi Mangione vibe.
Jesus.
So
Good thing we're not monetized, or we just got demonetized.
yeah, it'd be unalived by the media for these. But yeah, so I guess to get into it, we overall, before we spoil too much,
I don't recommend it.
Very mixed.
2.5. Like I would definitely say dislike. It's close to a mid for me. Like it was forgettable. I never will think about it. As soon as we stop talking about it in this podcast, I probably won't think about it again. Which to me is like the worst thing a movie can be in a lot of ways, is just like a function of time. Like, well, yeah, I burned 2 hours. Like, no, like give me something to really hold. Like I said, even as much as like I was a mixed bag on it a bit more, and you were more in the dislike camp, but at least there was things about Opus that I liked.
Yeah.
Whether it was the music or Malkovich.
And visually really strong.
Yes,
and this is very middle of the road. It's competent, but you're not like, what a great shot.
It's just because the sets are all. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Neither recommend. Now we're into the spoiler territory.
I would say if you're like a horse girl, maybe, or if you love
Revenge
unicorns,
of the horses.
I would say there's some still shots in this movie where I'm like, man, it's been a minute since I've seen unicorns as a thing. And I would say this movie will only be in the zeitgeist for the conversation if in 10, 20 years there's ever a version of a movie like this where there's a evil unicorn and they go, dude, it's just like that, because there's so little.
Bambi movie coming out.
Yeah.
The horror Bambi.
Horror Bambi might actually touch on this because I do think it is.
kind of.
The biggest props I give to this whole thing before we break it down is I think it's awesome that somebody wanted to make a unicorn movie, and it wasn't like a B movie. It was like a movie that was normal and very like unoffensive, but it was like, man, somebody really got out there and was like, we need a unicorn thing in 2025 because like I can't name a movie that has made unicorns a thing. So kudos on that. But yeah, the whole thing is just it's very
Did you
numbing.
just say you really liked the fact that they just made a movie about unicorns? I did it. Are you coming out as a brony right now, Brandon? I'm sitting here attentively listening to what you're saying, and I'm like, why does it matter that you basically were just making the case? You're like, it's really nice to see unicorn representation in cinema. I really like that about this movie.
I I
Representation.
I one year when I was Post Malone for Halloween, and he famously wore this like pink unicorn shirt. So I went on Amazon, I typed in unicorn shirt, and there was literally only one, and it was the exact one Post Malone wore. So it's like that's so to me cringe and ironic, and I loved it. But yeah, I'm a closet brony, and this movie slapped. That's why leaving the theater, I was like, you guys kind of hated that, right? But no, I yeah, like I'm very mixed. I think it's cool that they took an original idea because like especially after watching The Working Man, the most overplayed ideas. I was like, cool, this is not normal, but also it was like it was a medium swing and a medium miss. Like there was nothing lost, nothing gained, and yeah, I guess get more
And
into
I
it.
guess I had to say too, like we're getting into the spoiler side of it now. The Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega, they're on their way to this. It's kind of unclear on the setup, but they're on this
Yeah.
way to this cabin, I think in Canada.
I've never squinted so hard at license
Yeah, we were
plates.
trying to read the plate. We think it was Alberta. I guess is our
Yeah.
best guess.
Yeah, they made it seem like they
It was
were in
like a fake
like
Air Canada, like a version.
yeah, they made it seem like it was like the German Alps or something. And the only giveaway at the end is there's a cop and they have a hokey hoser accent. And like, oh, chief, for bringing these people to the station. And I
Yeah,
was like, I thought they were in like the Swiss Alps or something like rich, rich. Like if you're Alberta rich, like
yeah, it was a odd.
that's
I
still
definitely
Canada rich.
wasn't
That's not even
expecting it.
like yeah, it's not even like Texas rich. So, anyways,
But yeah, so they're on their way to this thing, and they talk about how there are these rich people they're visiting. Paul Rudd works for them.
major pharmaceutical
Yeah,
like
and
the Galen Weston of
yeah, yeah,
pharmaceuticals,
yeah. And then on the way there, they hit a unicorn, and so it's
which is in the
still like
trailer.
suffering. Yeah, this is all like right at the beginning, and then there's a funny moment. So like I think we both said was our favorite moment where the horn of the unicorn glows, and Jenna Ortega touches it, and like has like a vision and everything.
Sees God in the
And then
cosmos.
all of a sudden, while that scene's happening, then Paul Rudd just starts bashing the unicorn's head with a tire iron to
And
put it out of its
And Jenna
misery.
Ortega goes from like seeing the cosmos through God and is like like brought
The
back to
blood
like
splatters
yeah.
on their faces
And
and
then they
stuff.
title card us, and I'm like, I am so in.
Yeah,
Like I knew the trailers where they're setting
they
up.
literally peaked right there.
It peaked, and I think like yeah, you again talk about trailer expectations. Once we got to that point, I'm like, okay, I'm in. I was expecting this based on the trailers. That joke was funny, and then yeah, Jenna Ortega getting like traumatized, like 20 minutes in solid, and then from there
Yeah, the whole like social satire too. I guess we'll just kind of talk about to get out of the way, but like, yeah, there's the old husband, the slightly younger wife, and then
yummy
the
mummy.
son, and played by Will Poulter.
And
I
Will
didn't know you were
Poulter.
this excited between the yummy mummy, as you put it, and the unicorns. You must have had a time in this movie. But yeah, like the whole social angle of it is like, yeah, they're these just rich people and just dicks and like only think about that. They have like people around, like Will Poulter's like, can I get you anything? Do you want that? And he's like, yeah, I love it. And then he just yells for the people that are still like working at the house, the servant types, to be like, yeah, you get that.
A guy who kind of slightly steals the show. Was very underrated. I think underused. NoHo Hank. Yeah, he's the main servant, and again, he's really understated in this movie, but he's
Because he's great.
yeah.
He's not called NoHo Hank in this movie. He's NoHo
It's
Hank
not with a G. It's like a quick
in
name because they
Barrie.
scream it. They scream it all the time. Yeah, he's from
Anthony
Barrie.
Harrigan.
Yeah, he's very like
Super good.
albino, and yeah,
Very fun.
he's always got this look of like I'm a witness to these horrors. And I think one time in the movie he speaks up, which is like a good idea, and he just realizes, oh yeah, I'm talking to these elites, and some of that did work for me a bit, but
Yeah, it wasn't terrible. It's just overplayed, or
I
like,
I think the strong parts of the screenplay to that department was having a stroke saying department. This they speak very corporate and like professional, and and there's a thin veil of like their moral virtuing, and again it was pretty treaded waters, or we've been there before, but it'd be like the same joke happened a few times where it's like we gotta get out of here, we're gonna die. And then, a Will Poulter or the dad or the mom very vapidly would be like, okay, so what I'm hearing is we should be circling back to that idea. And they do the corporate thing where they're like, now if we propose to do what's right and shield ourselves from the fallout of a potential microaggression, like they're always massaging this very agenda based speak. And it is, I found that to be like funny. It wasn't like piss your pants funny, but it did add a layer. But then when that's like kind of like the only like highlight, when Paul Rudd's just literally Paul Rudd, and it's not even like the funny, Paul Rudd semi Mark Wahlberg, like, oh,
yeah.
what's going, oh my god, like he's very much just like, I'm a dad and I can't get it right, and I'm just trying to keep my job. Oh yeah, I'll keep my job,
He
and
just had to be like milk toast generic
milked, yeah.
dad.
And Jenna Ortega is Jenna Ortega too. She's like, oh, I'm a misunderstood teenager
I think
living,
you were gone when we were, because so a
yeah,
bunch of us went to all see all well, three of these four movies together, and one of the things I said was like, I'm like, I think Jenna Ortega might be my, like, the female version of Nicholas Hoult for me. Like, I can't think of
interesting.
anything I've seen her in that I'm like, oh, she was fantastic. But she's always like fine in anything I've seen. But I haven't seen like the Scream stuff. I didn't watch.
Yeah, so I think the thing with like Paul Rudd was, I didn't think he got like a really good arc in this movie. It seemed to wrap up. He was like a really good bad dad, but he never really made too many good choices. I don't know if I really bought in that there was like he was main character coming around. I like just seeing the
Yeah.
bad guys be bad the whole movie.
Well, yeah, I was like, I don't know if it was the performance or the writing, but like he felt very whiplashy, but in an inorganic way. Like I didn't really see it as like, I didn't see the character I saw Paul Rudd. I was like, and so I just felt like, again, the writer of it all was coming through, where it's like, this doesn't feel like he's like this all the time. When those, like, honestly, the bashing of the head thing, like, felt very out of character for the guy he was throughout the rest of the movie. And even leading up to that moment, like he was
Oh,
kind of
totally.
panicked, and then just all of a sudden to multi whale it, like it
Yeah.
just, I don't know, like it just felt really weird. His character, like it never felt like a real thing to me,
Yeah, yeah.
because he was like a shitty, unlistening dad. Like even with the conflict of his motivations, like there was a more natural way to do that
Yeah.
without also just being like such a douche to her.
Yeah, yeah, because he said one line, and I think the whole theater laughed because it was just kind of like calling it as it is, and it's like, hey daughter,
Yeah.
like this is, we're talking like tens of millions of dollars at a time. Like he's like, this job is like, we will be these people if I thug this out. I made a promise to your dying mom.
Yeah.
And even like that exposition of like, oh yeah,
Actually,
yeah,
two dying moms, by the way.
yeah, a lot of dying moms in Hollywood, and so they're like, they do that thing where they're like, yeah, the I keep calling them Westons, but like the rich evil Canadian family. They're not Canadian in the movie, but the rich evil family wants to see my family because they're all about family. Obviously, they're not. Everyone's dog shit, but like Jenna Ortega is just like the most. Well, I mean, they even make this joke in the movie, like the most liberal arts student. Nobody listens to me, and I respect nature, and everyone's like, get ratioed. We're chopping this unicorn up.
That was, I think, maybe the biggest flaw of the whole movie was like I genuinely did not like either of the main characters. And that's fine if the movie, like, that's part of it, but like the entire ending, like you're
Yeah,
supposed to care, and I
yeah.
didn't care at all.
No, completely. I cared way more about the mom and Will Poulter. Not like they were growing, but they were so much more fun to watch. And I thought, and I was like,
Yes.
hoping, I was praying for this. They set up blowing up an oxygen tank. And I thought, and they were so close, I thought they were going to do a Jaws where the unicorn would go to bite or kill her. And they would put the air tank, and Will Poulter has a flaming arrow at one point.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are they going to be like, smile, you son of a bit?
That
And
was
like,
such a good swerve, though.
yeah, it was a good story because the whole movie, Will Poulter's like this douche, and they set that up too, where it's like, yeah, he used to be a bit of a shutterbug until he found archery. Then it became my whole thing, and then later he's holding the bow and arrow like this. He's like, okay, I actually really didn't do much archery. And when he has that moment to do the big Jaws moment and blow I thought they were gonna blow that one up. I was so stoked for that. And then he's just like, sorry, mom, and he runs away and she gets fucking brutalized. So like
Yeah.
there were some bits that I thought landed, but they were always with Will Poulter. And it was like he was somewhat one note. In fact, his character changed from
Yep.
being and this is a fun part, coked out on unicorn horn. Um, the minute that they realize the unicorns they have these unnatural healing properties, they don't do the blood. They immediately swerve into the horn being like the cause and the best like potent stuff. So they immediately shave it and turn it into a white powder. And I was just sitting there being like, I can't wait for the moment where it was like they just have a mound. It is like the most like Hollywood party like unicorn thing, and they do it at least once or twice, and like, it becomes funny where Will Puller's mom's like, "Honey, you were on the wagon. You're doing so good," because he's like doing lines of unicorn horn. And he's seeing the cosmos, and he's becoming 500 IQ, but he's really just any coked out guy that's just like, "I got an idea, bro," and
Well, he knew he would whatever the again, it's like not even
yeah,
worth getting into the lore or
yeah,
lack thereof,
lore,
but like it does give them some sort of connection to the unicorn. So like him doing the drugs, his eyes would like have like this
blow the
universal thing,
cosmos.
yeah. And
Good effect for
then
that.
he yeah, I like that. And then he was like, "Oh, I know what to do. I know what to do." So he's like has those same visions and stuff that Jenna Ortega has after she touches the horn. But like yeah, and again, it just that part, the killing of the mom, the swerve of that was like funny because he's like, "I'm so sorry," and you think it's like an emotional, he's killing his mom, but his mom's like, "Do it, like blow him up and whatever," as she's about to get mauled,
Her
and
innards are on a pool
and
table
he's
from
like, "I'm
being.
so sorry," and then and he just dips, he leaves her there, and then she's like, "No," and then it ripped, yeah, it bites the side of her, pulls all her guts out, and then
Yeah,
like they have a shot of the pool table or whatever, and she's just all her guts are splayed out there for
I
her.
know I don't know our audience, but if you've ever seen The Avengers, where the funny part where the Hulk grabs Loki and he like smashes him back and forth on the ground, I swear this unicorn was doing that. Like it like ripped her
Oh yeah,
leg
it ragdolled
and just like
Steve for a
boom,
bit.
boom, boom, and then she's on the pool table and they're like Great Hall, guts out, leg gone, and she's like doing her like last stand to get the oxygen tank.
Yeah.
It did again. That's probably I'd say a highlight next to like that like deadpan like beat its head in with like there's some dark comedy here,
Hmm.
and I was really apprehensive about that going in because I thought, oh, this is just going to be like a potential monkey situation where it's like if you're not into it, you're not into it, and I found like this movie didn't go there, and I definitely wanted more. So
Yeah, and I think like the more I think about it too, the shortcomings of this from a narrative level, I think are really what weigh this to a bit more of a negative for me is like the whole ending. So like pretty much everyone gets killed except NoHo Hank gets to escape. But anyone that's taken stuff like the horn or like the dad had eaten like a unicorn steak at one
that
point.
was good. I'm glad they did that because I was thinking they didn't do much, but
Yeah.
what they did do, I
Or
was like,
drinking its like putting its blood in drinks and
yeah,
stuff
making
like
little like cocktails and
so like anyone basically that like partook in that, the unicorns are like collecting all of that back. So even that was what happened with the one doctor lady was she stole, I don't even remember what it was, but she had some sort of
uh
piece of
she
something.
she and again there's some messaging here that I thought was gonna.
Oh, she had a vial of
She had a violet dust, and she was because like basically they say they even had on the nose as soon as they realized that they can't synthesize this unicorn magic dust. They're like the horn of the unicorn's all we have. It's a finite resource. Because there's a moment like we can cure cancer. We're the best. We're living forever. We're
Mhm.
great. It's like it's bad immediately, but they're like go get the Devil's List book. Like let's
Oh,
go.
Davos. That's
Oh
like the
Davos. Oh, I thought it was
World
Devil.
Economic Forum, which I think is like
Yeah, that was pretty good. I thought it said Devil's List.
funny political element of this,
Yeah,
but like yeah,
because they
all the world elite at the
and again
WEF.
one of the better jokes too. Again, it's like they pan around the room. They show how everyone's trying to like call senators and foreign nationals, and they're trying to get the best dollar for like the miracle cure. Um, and then Will Poulter is like, yeah, yeah, I partied with this boy. Trust me, I know he's going to want to know this. And then a minute later, he's like, Mom, yeah, put an 8 ball down for like Jeff Bezos or somebody. And she's like, what? He's like 3.5 grams. He's like, that's an oddly specific amount. And I'm like, haha, there's that immediate Coke humor that I thought there. And It was good, but yeah, like that was the thing. So the highest bidder. So later, Paul Rudd, who's like on the worker level of this other woman who's seen them like disrespect their staff and the people around them. She kind of has this moment of like, get yours. If you are with these shitty people, you got to look out for yourself.
Yeah.
Kind of like I thought that was gonna be a better through line there because it doesn't matter that much. So she incentivizes him to also take a little because even if something goes wrong or they get fired or like they get outed or they're thrown on the bus, they will always have
Yeah.
like something. And Paul Rudd does make a point to say to Jenna Ortega, like, what if we had this miracle cure? Your mom would still be here. And
Mhm.
she's like, well, it's a cheap shot. And I sort of like they tried, but none of it really lands. And nor does it come up. There's a life altering situation near the end of the movie. And I always kept thinking, is like, oh, now that you've been stabbed, maybe you take some of that unicorn powder and rub it in, and they just don't go anywhere with it.
Yeah. So basically everybody is dead except Jenna Ortega, and Paul Rudd and Will Poulter stab each other. And then Will Poulter gets kicked in the head by the unicorn. He's dead.
Brutal death. One of the greats. Like
It
just
was a good bit, and like
yeah.
deserved, like again, well earned, well built up moment.
Yeah, slides
But
across the concrete, broken jawed. Like it was unlike the Working Man, where again, a guy who's built up as a big bad just gets like a gut punch or stabbed or shot in the stomach,
yeah,
and you're like, oh wow, I'm glad there was a big cathartic release. But Will
yeah, it
Poulter
was
gets
just
it.
all done. Yeah, it definitely came out good. And then the worst part though is so one thing we haven't, I guess, clarified for anyone that hasn't seen it is that they didn't call them like maidens was the word they used. Like the unicorns basically are like they're swayed or whatever by a like I
A
can't
virtuous maiden,
virtuous maiden, I think might have been
Jenna
the like.
Ortega.
So like when they go near her, they don't try to kill her. In fact, they like lay down in her
Yeah.
lap
In the
and let her.
climax, they immediately lay down like farm animals after
Yeah.
they just ripped apart like two other characters who were
So, and
pretty.
because Will
Yeah.
Poulter did the sniff, he knows that they'll do that. So then he's like ties them up, and that doesn't work. But anyway, so they're dying, and Paul Rudd's dying, and Jenna Ortega's crying because her dad is dying. And I didn't give a shit because I instantly knew he's gonna get healed. Like there's no, and again, you don't know how you like you said, oh, he'll just rub some of that stuff. I was like very obvious. I'm like, yeah, they're surrounded by three things that can heal you in 90 different ways,
Yeah.
apparently. So it's like there's no stakes, there's no emotion to this moment whatsoever. And then so like I'm rolling my eyes for that. And again, like Jen Ortega, she's crying, she's acting her heart out for that. And I'm like,
Paul Rudd simply fell asleep.
yeah, he died, and it was like, but again, I was like, just didn't care. I wasn't invested in any of it because I knew it would be immediately undone, and even then, like, I wasn't moved by the performance either. And then he comes back, and then the police show up, and obviously the police don't believe that unicorns showed up and killed everybody.
Even though NoHo Hank witnessed a lot of this,
Yeah,
and NoHo Hank's not under arrest, he's like,
they let him follow in the car behind,
yeah.
right?
But you'd also assume NoHo Hank could be like, no, no, here's all this evidence. Look at our boardroom full of paperwork, and they had 3D printouts of
Like
everything.
X-rays and
Yeah,
stuff.
they have documented proof. They have,
But also the ending of this is the more I think about this also is just super weird. But so they're getting
yeah,
like taken to the police in the back of a police car. They're taken to the police station, and the three unicorns come back and start running alongside the cop car, and they like look at them and they exchange a look. So Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega like come together, and he puts his arms around her because they know that the unicorns are going to run the police car off for them, and it literally does that and cuts to black.
yeah. They body check the cop car and it cuts to black. And I'm like, I thought they were just gonna end it with them waking up when
Like, how is that a good? Like, it doesn't clarify anything.
the death
It
death of
doesn't.
the unicorn too.
It doesn't give you any finality. That's one thing we did gloss over in The Working Man was that they set that up for a sequel.
Oh yeah, they're like, let him
Thankfully,
live.
I don't think we're getting a Death of a Unicorn sequel, but if anything, this was a good feather in the cap for Will Poulter to
Yeah, Will Poulter needs to
like,
be
yeah, put him
in
in
more
more stuff. He's
comedies.
gonna be in Warfare. That's coming out, so that's gonna be a very different kind of movie.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to watch that now. I'm gonna be waiting for him, dude. He
Some
so
cracking bits.
you know, I want to talk about like the design of this movie. I thought was pretty good. Like, again, it was like contemporary cabin with ultra wealthy elites. But Will Poulter's outfits, you know, maybe I'm just like I'm a Will Poulter stan now, but he was always cheeked up in like hoochie daddy shorts. He's always wearing the country club. I want to put a meme on the clip of this because I want to clip this, but like that like college frat boy with like the Sperry's who's good like you know standing you know like the meme that's like oh $80 a gram of weed like you know like that like the white boy country club look like every outfit he had was so like hard in that department,
Preppy.
preppy and just like oh man, I loved it. The dad's outfit too, which I think they paid some attention to this stuff. His outfit went from like dying old man, and then he gets a lot of life and vigor when he gets the unicorn cure, and he's you can see it's poisoning him to be more like hungry. Because at the start of this movie, he's like, I've accepted my death. I'm gonna be buried in a tree the way old like Norse mythology. He's really chill actually. He's the one that's like, hey Paul Rudd, you know, your wife died and you appreciate family. I'm gonna, you know, get you into this empire as my proxy. But by the end of it, yeah, he's like that tiger hunter, you know,
The hat and everything.
and he's like, you know, talking about how humans hunting with spears is so inspirational. He whips out an AK-47 or like an M16, like whatever, machine gun. And again, like those jokes didn't really land. I was like, okay, obvious. But the wardrobe for him, it's like he was wearing beads and robes, and by the end of it, he's like, yeah, like a 1920s like outback hunter with a bunch of machine guns. So he goes from like very spiritual. At this point, where he rips off a bunch of beads, and I'm like, that's the like the symbolism, you know. And but the wardrobe in this movie for like some of these people, I thought were like, they nailed it. They nailed it. I was immediately bought in with like you know, again, even like the wealthy athleisure I talked about in the Working Man, where I was like, yeah, because he, you know, he's not got 80 hours on those hands. He's a doctor. He takes Zoom calls in his athleisure. So, where Jason Statham's Carhartted up all movie. So but yeah, I think technically this movie's got like a lot of really good stuff. Like as far as like it looks good, you know. But on that note, I'd say this is probably the least A24 movie that A24's put out. And that's like not a me take. I feel like I've read that, but we talked about that after where we're like,
That's literally a me take. You just quoted me from earlier in the day, but
there's like two or three other headlines. I've seen other headlines, but yeah, it doesn't feel like an A24 movie. And a big thing that I was saying was the climax of the movie when they resurrected. So no unicorns died also in the death of a unicorn, spoiler. Um, they resurrect. Well, yeah, I guess they died a
it
lot.
depends. Yeah, I was gonna say the first one died at least twice.
Yeah, they resurrect everybody at the end. It's well, sorry, the good people. But the whole point is like there's a moment where like they have this like again overused slam, but like an MCU style like orb and cosmos effect, kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy type thing. But this is where I was like, okay, this CG is a little questionable because they're making something that doesn't exist. The unicorns I thought were largely good.
The shot of like when Jenna Ortega's like flying through it at the very beginning,
Yeah.
and her hair is just kind of waving through it. I was like, oof, did
Oof.
not love that.
Oof, yeah. And they didn't do like transitions either. It was very much like just yeah. So but the point of this though is like they do a very like commercial effect at the end that is just like big glowing orb, everything gets like not even everything, just a glowing CG orb brings everybody back to life because the unicorns cross horns. And it was really lame. And I thought, you know, the A24 critic that's like so heady and cerebral, bro, I would have accepted Paul Rudd in a field with unicorns naked and then being like, this is being reborn, you know, something heady and shitty and weird. But they do the opposite. And I'm like, oh no, this is way more commercialized for an A24 film. Not that I care that much, but I remember thinking like it could have helped being a little bit more vague or seeing a little less unicorn and being more like, are we being hunted by a unicorn? Did we kill a unicorn? Which I thought was going to be maybe more prevalent, but
Yeah,
it
there was like unicorn. This is another thing we talked about earlier was the unicorn lore that was just like glossed over.
oh yeah,
So
Jenna Ortega is like the fucking expert with 3 Google searches and a
yeah,
printer.
just because of yeah, like a tapestry thing. But like not even that was the bothersome part. Like when Paul Rudd like sacrifices himself to lure the one unicorn away because he's got the other horn, all of a sudden he just is walking the other unicorn back still with the horn, and
He's running
that's
for his life.
completely yeah, like
38 seconds prior.
yeah, like and it's chasing the whole point is they just want the horn, and we have no idea. Like I don't know if I missed. No one else noticed in the group if there was anything, but and then yeah, like like so the baby unicorn it was the baby unicorn that they hid at the beginning. It was white, but these parent unicorns that were killing everybody were black. And then this orb thing that Brandon was just talking about, when that like explodes
Oh
or
yeah.
whatever, um
It
it
was their
clears them, it
blackness.
turns them like they all are now white unicorns, and the baby is now alive again with its horn reattached because of the magic orb
They're
thing.
white unicorns with like glowing gold horns, and
Yeah.
the whole movie they were a lot more like yeah, very much more like they look, you
Yeah,
know,
they were just like dark and
demons.
yeah,
Yeah, they were
yeah.
black with these dark like crystal looking horns, and yeah, at the end they're like the picture perfect unicorns. And again, they don't really get into it, but like four times the movie, it's Jen Ortega or even the one good actor who was like, they'll get resurrected. They're gonna get resurrected. And yeah, like sure enough, in the end, like even though the baby unicorn is fucking brutalized, it is like there's a stake taken out of it,
Yeah.
horns cut off, which is like gnarly, tire iron and bullet to the head. Like, also they imply you can kill a unicorn by shooting it, and then they shoot the fuck out of one of the unicorns with like an assault rifle point blank, and like that barely even bleeds really, and you're kind of like, oh, you could single tap a unicorn.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a baby, but it's like, yeah, they, I really thought, honestly, they, like, I thought he was going to pull like a grenade launcher and be like, I wanted a unicorn to blow up. I think that's why I'm actually not.
You're just hung, you're hung up that I'd like to see it heal from that. And then there's the philosophical debate, like, well, could it have?
Could have put all its lumps,
Yeah, would
together.
it just form back into a mass or whatever? But yeah, no, I think like, yeah, on my wrap up on this, like Will Poulter was good. I just, if you saw the trailer and you thought you would enjoy it, then you probably will. Like it very much. Because again, I try to avoid trailers. But this one was playing in front
You
of a
you
ton of
can't.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this has
this
been the
was playing,
most trailer baited movie.
and it was definitely like pretty much exactly what I expected from it. So at least kudos to the trailer, I guess, for that, even if it gave away a lot of bits too.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if you haven't seen the trailer, I still don't think it was like all that interesting and again worth your time. I did look at this too. This was a little more on the negative side too. This was a 54% on the tomato meter right now.
Scored higher than Opus, to be fair. I was really hard on Opus, and they had like a 41, 42. It was a 39, I thought, at one point. Like it was around a low 40. So hearing the Working Man was like better than Opus on the tomato
So
meters.
that's crazy,
Crazy.
man.
Yeah,
We need
so
to watch more movies and better movies, please.
we want to make let us know in the comments. We want to make a hat that's bright red that says make movie trailers great again, but then we also want to do eliminate all trailers, but then we figured that might not be that might be even
Let's
worse for a red hat.
I had the first idea, his was the second idea. But yeah, no, I think that's kind of my bit with that is I definitely don't think you need it. Definitely other stuff you could be watching that's not that one. Do you want to jump into the next two?
Yeah, we'll before we switch I because I do this all the time. So the budget of Death of a Unicorn was 15 million.
Mhm.
Um and again, like we were talking about this on Companion. So the Death of the
The
Unicorn.
Death of the Unicorn.
Um the companion was a movie I really liked, and it was one of my more liked movies this year. And I know Adriana and Shay were kind of in more the camp of it like being good and passable, but kind of, generic contemporary, sci-fi horror kind of. And they lumped it in with other movies like Abigail. And I get what they mean by that. But that being said, like those are pretty good movies. They're just not like hard hitting or stick with you. But this movie, I would lump there, but I do feel like it is a far worse movie because it doesn't really land in any way. And nothing that is set up is brought back that well.
Far worse than
I
the
should say far worse.
Yeah.
I think the companion's like a lot tighter of a script, like you get a lot more insight to these people, and it kind of wraps up better. And again, say like the cork, they
Yeah.
set that up and it comes back. I'm trying to think what Chekhov's gun they have. The only callback I could think of is at the start, and it's kind of a funny beat Jenna Ortega, who hates her dad, falls asleep on my shoulder on the airport, and he's a nerdy guy. And immediately he chooses to pick up the paperwork on the floor he dropped, causing her to whack her head,
Yeah.
than to keep that moment with his daughter that's so sacred. And at the end of the movie, when they're locked up in the back of the cop car, that they kind of do that for a minute. So I'm like, that's a very cute visual callback. But outside of that, there was no really big setup or payoff other than like literal exposition where they're like, it gets resurrected according to this
Yeah.
tapestry. So I think like a movie like Companion where they have lines or they have like, hey, you can change your voice with the app. And then it's like, oh, that's a weird feature. And then she has to use it to unlock the car. Like, I think The Companion is a far tighter written and slightly cheaper movie. And so I just, not like this is a Titan like Electric State on Netflix. But it's like, for the 15 million, I don't think it was bad, but yeah, it does fall in that like contemporary horror that's not amazing, or contemporary comedy. It's more of a comedy, I guess, gory horror or whatever you want, but
Yeah.
just didn't land. And I want to say it's like if there's a spectrum of like movies that are like enjoyable, but you got to know your audience. It's not one you could recommend to just everybody. This one's on the lower end of that spectrum. I think I recommend The Companion to everybody, Abigail to most people, and then this, I think it's like if you're a brony, if you're a
Yeah,
horse
if you're
girl,
looking for more unicorn representation in cinema, then this is the you. But yeah, I would agree on like I think a bit more negative on Abigail too, just because it's like just be the bit. But yeah, for this one it was the bit for what it was going for. I feel like most of the time it was a little bit more, I guess, pure in its like what it was like
yeah,
for I guess to its credit. But
yeah.
yeah, like just overall for me, it was like, yeah, it was mid to negative enough that I'm like, yeah, it's not.
Which is sad for a unicorn horror comedy that lampoons the rich, I guess. Like, and even just saying that out loud, it's like I don't know. I don't know if that is bad or good anymore.
Well, it's like,
That's
yeah, it just like
whatever.
again, just elicit stronger feelings out of an
Yeah.
audience. Like make it funnier, make it like again, I don't think serious is often the way to go with something like this, but like those moments didn't hit. So like lean more, like make it more like, have those bits be more exaggerated and stuff like that. Like I just would rather be more pure in that sense than
And I think too,
we
like
go.
to I know we're going off, but yeah, to wrap up too, like again, kind of like The Working Man, another,
Why,
but
why are you bringing everything back to
but
the working man? You're really
well,
hung up
I'm
on
trying to
this
think of
movie.
like why certain things work, right? And like in The Working Man, by the end of the movie, I realized, unlike The Beekeeper, again, that's a real opus there. That's a great movie. And The Beekeeper, he's pretty beat up by the end of it. He's had a crazy day of fighting goons and getting shot at and explosions. Um, so there's some real weight and stakes. And in The Working Man, again, I feel like he barely got hit once in the stomach, you know? And then same thing in The Death of the Unicorn. There's no real stakes for Paul Rudd. It's like he might lose his job, which is a high paying one. But at the end of the day, it's like he's always shown as this, like, he wants to be a better dad. So he's going to work harder to make more money to keep the family. But it's like, if he left that job, I'm sure his resume is great. I'm sure he's a lawyer. In fact, they joke about it in the end. It's like, oh, yeah, I forgot I'm a really high paid
Well, but
lawyer.
having the cure for cancer would make you probably substantially
Yeah.
and they were right. That was one of the things that was like, well, this is your discovery. He is the one that did it.
Yeah.
So that was like again, part of that corporate speaks stuff that
Yeah.
they were saying to him. But like, that was in that vein of like, well, we're definitely going to be in on this.
We
But you could tell
partners
they were trying to like, you'll definitely
weasel
get
him
a,
out.
like he went like, we're going to be partners. And then at one point down the line, it was like, and you're definitely going to get your royalty.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just like they
And
were posturing him out, and then Will Poulter at the end's like, when it's the last two of them alive, he's like
50-50,
50.
bro. Yeah, and that's kind of the thing, is like, it's like I even during the movie, at some point he's like, oh, let's just go, and then the boss is like, well, we won't treat you if you, like, you're out if you leave. At that point, the shit was hitting the fan. People were getting ripped in half and dying. The cars were breaking down. The unicorns doing EMP to disable technology half the fucking time. So it was just kind of weird that it's like, by that point, to make that choice, he would have been fine at many times, basically. And his version of danger was his job until it was like people were dying. And then even then, that wasn't even a real threat because, again, he's running for his life. And he just shows up with the magic horn, and it's not even like a moment or a beat that they can explain. So I just felt like it was a consequenceless, doting like role. Like again, like Paul Rudd
Yeah.
didn't do much, but also like you said, script wise, it was well, there's no real like weight to it. Jenna Ortega just arguing with him was like a joke, and it, you know, I don't know. It was just, it was really disheartening. You know, I think the closest they come to real weight and like his complex was like, oh well, we could have saved your mom, so I'm working really hard to cure cancer. That was not the intention of that weekend. That was just like a happenstance, you know?
Yeah.
So his motivations are just so lacking. And yet you find more fun and more like weight loving the bad people. And you know, you care way more about the mom that gets ripped up at the end gruesomely because it's like funny, it's engaging. She's trying to go on her last stand. She's trying to have an emotional beat with her son. It's like, maybe I didn't raise you right, or like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry I wasn't there.
Well,
And
that's just like, if this is the last time if we don't get out of this alive, I just want you to know. And Will Poulter's like, shut the fuck up. We got to get the fuck out of
he's
here. Like, just
shut the fuck up, Mom.
yeah, completely outcooked and completely interrupts her.
And it's so good, and it's like the main characters who probably got most of that $15 million budget were probably the worst parts of the movie.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just gosh, I'm kicking a dead unicorn here, but I
Yeah, for now.
yeah. So I'd say yeah, I think I don't know, 2.5. Like it's not a bad movie, it's just not a good one. Much better than Working Man. I think The Working Man's like an offensively bad movie.
Yeah, it's a dislike for me on the ratings.
Yeah.
For our rating scale that we use. I just, yeah, I just, like I said, it's close to that midpoint. Like it is like very close. Like I'd maybe do somewhere in between, but like ultimately it's like, yeah, there wasn't much here for me at all. Like I said, Will Poulter was it for me, and that was it. So just watch clips of his bits, and I think like half of the good ones are in the trailer too, to be honest.
Go if you want to watch a family road trip movie that has consequences, stakes, and a lot of fun. Just go watch We're the Millers for like the 30th time.
Yeah, just get more Will Poulter that way. At least that's a bit more enjoyable.
Yeah. So on that note, thanks for joining us for our first in-person live in my downtown Montreal recording with Shay and Brandon from Screen Love Affair.
Yeah, and of course, do the usual stuff wherever you're listening. Like it, rate it, follow us or subscribe. All of that helps boost our engagement and our numbers and is super helpful as we get this thing off the ground. And please remember, next time you're out at the movies, make sure you don't sneeze on the back of anyone's head.